The heat has finally affected the fishing, and the waders are keeping it cool by throwing top waters in the morning for trout and redfish. The bass and the crappie guys say that you need to move out a little deeper, 15 to 30 feet of water. Our guides are waiting to bring you up to speed here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome to another great week on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. We're your host, Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm Jamie Estrada. Now, you may have noticed Brie is not here, and that's because she's a little busy getting ready to welcome the newest member of the show, baby Leo, and we wish her the very, very best. Right, Rick?
You're absolutely right. We do wish her the best. And guys, let's be clear here. She hasn't had the baby yet, but she is at home taking it easy, waiting for the baby to announce his own time. And we appreciate you being here filling in for her, Jamie.
Well, I'm very, very happy to be here. And I'm also very happy to be alongside our own Dave Farrell over at the workbench. How goes it, Dave?
It's going good. We've got our buddy Steve Grant from Diamond Fishing here, and he's going to tell us how to catch some great big kingfish. I'm going to tell you how to catch some smaller ones.
Whoa.
He's going to
It's all good, though. It's all fish,
Hopefully.
right?
Yeah.
We're all good.
You know, Jamie, we're going to learn today with Steve in the house.
That's right. And why don't we get started right now? First up, let's hear from Matt Reed on how the bass and alligator gar are biting in the lower fresh region. What's going on, Matt?
Hey, Jamie, let's get this thing rolling. You know, I got such a big old region down south. Started off with a large bass. Mike Bates sent a report from Toe Canyon. The lake level same constant. Water temperature in the high 80s, and the hydrilla has matted in a lot of areas on the main lake. If you like to punch grass with a 1 ounce weight and soft plastic, it's perfect. Get out there, get you some braided line, drop it through the thick mat, and that's a great way to get some big bites. We kind of skipped the early morning. Early morning top water is still good. Swim baits and flukes are working also on that inside hydrilla line. Moving on over to Brian Cotter's region around Austin. Lake bass drop has been good. There's schoolies in the morning, some around the discharge, but they're best on the main lake. There's a couple different schools, the bigger ones on the south end down toward the dam. Look for action just outside the South Shore ramp and back in the flat left of that intake area of the power plant. Throw small swim baits at top waters to get those fish caught. The other pattern there is look for the thick grass patches. Throw wake baits in top waters around the edge of them. Also, some fish being caught on the rock drops out around the intake. Lake Austin's been really good early in the mornings with a deep crankbait or a jig out on the ledges. The rock drops out there. That's the best way to catch a big one. Another thing right now with the heat of the summer. Fish at night. The lights, a lot of the docks there have underwater lights. Look for the deeper docks with the lights and brush piles. Throw a jig or a big creature bait around those docks in the light, around the edges of the light, and that's a great way to catch a big fish. Fayette County is fishing pretty fair this week. The wind has made the offshore bite a little bit tough. You can start early in the morning with a lipless crankbait around the reeds of vegetation to get your day started. That's usually over by about 9 o'clock. But those deep fish out there on the main lake points, some road beds and also just some regular drop-offs. A drop shot or a shaky head has been the best bite out there. You need to stay just above the thermocline. The thermocline's in that 16 to 20 foot range on the main lake, so fish just above that. Like Somerville, it's really mostly all happening really early. Small rattle baits are along the rocky banks early in the mornings is the best way to catch you some fish. For that later bite, that brush piles of 12 to 15 foot of water with a Texas rig or a brush jig have been best. My baby down at Lake Falcon, the fish are biting well. I mean, it's straight summer pattern, full-blown heat. Out on the main lake rock and the man-made brush piles, so crankbaits, stand-up heads, and Carolina rigs on the rocks. You'll want to throw a big worm on a Texas rig in the brush piles. And as always, a giant can happen on any cast down there. Got a picture there of one of my customers, Joseph, with a great big old Falcon special.
my
Those-
God,
I
Bo.
love those.
I love them
Oh,
too.
my.
right.
You got me a report also for Ram Reyes. The Texas Kings Outdoors, alligator garfishing at Falcon has been off the charts lately. We got some little bit of rising water and some shallow, flooded some of the shallow cover. Live perch and cut carp have been the ticket for those monsters. I mean, that picture there, those fish are amazing. It's just a spectacle when you see one of those giants.
That is. What a dinosaur. All right, tell us what else you got.
All right, Lake Somerville, the hybrids and white bass are doing well. They're schooling down and around Welch Park in the dam area midday. 5 shiners and shad just off the bottom. We'll catch them when they're not up schooling. When they're up schooling, throw you a chartreuse slab spoon in them or a topwater. That's a great way to catch them when they're up. To find them when they're up, look for the birds and get after them just like you would a saltwater fish.
All right, but
That's just a picture of a big old hybrid that Greg Boyd caught there recently.
nice. All right, we appreciate it. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Fiber Tech hotspots from the lower fresh region. He said Lake Falcon bass are in their typical summer haunts. Throw crankbaits and stand-up heads and Carolina rigs on the rock structure in 10 to 20 feet. And Texas rig big worms in those man-made brush piles to catch some of those giants. What do you think, Jamie?
Big worms. That's all I heard was big worms.
That's it.
Well, let's keep it going over in the ALVEY Reels Lower Coast region with Captain Kenny, who's got the inshore and offshore announcements for your upcoming weekend bash. Lay it on us, Chad.
Go ahead, Chad.
I tell you what, the redfish are holding up in the flats. They've been staying there, which is really great. On the lower coast here, we got miles and miles of stuff, 30, 40, 50 miles of it. So start south if you want to, like Gaswell Flats, which is by South Padre Island, all the way up on the east side. You can head all the way up to the land cut from there, which is a good 70-mile stretch. So these redfish, like I mentioned, they're up in the flats here, and they're holding up real shallow, real early in the AM. So the best thing to do is get your shallow sport boat and get you up there skinny and start scanning the water. Use your eyes, and that's the best thing to do. Getting about that 12 inches of water, look for mullet up on the breaks, or definitely see if you need schools, water disturbing and stuff like that. Also keeping out for wakes pushing. If you see 1 to 2 wakes going, don't just shut down on that. You gotta see some more consistency when you're going through there. If you see 1, 2, and another 1, 2, and then 4 over here and another pod, go ahead and stop there and make a drift. We've had some lighter winds and stuff like that, so if that's the case, power pull down, you have to make a weight out there to get to the fish. Especially, like I said, some of these lighter winds, you're not going to be able to drift to that boat. So when you're waiting, you've got a less silhouette on yourself. You're not going to push the fish as far out from you, so you'll be able to get in that casting range for them. When you're targeting these fish, best tackle I've been having for 2 years now is better. Those ALVEY 60 and 80s. I've been using some 60s out there. It's a little bit lighter even. Been spooling it up with some 20-pound diamond braid. In the shop there, I've been using that 30-pound pink Lemoy fluorocarbon. Works great. When you're tying your lures on and stuff, use a loop knot, especially when you're in the shallower water. Whether you're using a spoon or anything else, it'll help keeping the line from getting all messed up. Use a saltwater assassin paddle tail when you're in that shallower stuff. Sea shad works great. Or if you're using a top dog, by Mirror Lure, early in the AM works great. I like that bone color, or dark with the chartreuse on the back works excellent. And it's a great way to start the morning out there going over there. But heading offshore, I'm going to spend some more time on offshore. The reason being, there's a whole bunch of different stuff going on now. We're getting some beachfront action, state water snapper fishing still good, and out deeper to the tuna and the wahoo. The beachfront, like I mentioned, it's time to get out there and explore some stuff. I got my X3, which is really stable on that shallow sport, and you can run up and down. You can run in between the sandbars and really start looking for that stuff. You can find birds working on bait balls from the 3rd sandbar on out to any of the color changes, maybe 1 to 2 miles off. Live bait works really excellent if you're working for some tarpon or anything else like that out there. But also throw some Mirror Lure top waters or saltwater assassins rigged on some shorter wire. The reason you might want to hit some wire out there, there's lots of kingfish, Spanish smacks mixed in a bit with some sharks. You get some Jack Crevalle. There's also some tarpons, of course, mixed in there. But it's a lot of action, a lot of fun, especially in the calmer days like this. It's a great way to get out there. Try to get those sea conditions about 1 to 3 foot when you target that. Moving on to the state water snapper, it still remains really good, but there's still a crab hatch going on. I haven't never seen it last this long, but it's still going, but the bite's still pretty good. It's going to get better, which will really affect the fishing here when the crabs get a little bit bigger. Once they get to about the size of a 50-cent piece, that'll disappear, and you guys will be back into really good action. But still definitely worth going out there. There's good numbers of the fish, and with these calmer conditions, I like going down to a Eagle Claw Trocard jig, about a 1 to 3 ounce, and you tip it with some fresh offshore bait or you can use anything to tip it off there. FISHBITES works excellent also with that. Hit the middle of the water column and target these fish around structure in about 40 to 90 foot of water. Got a picture up here of Wes and his daughter Sky. They've been fishing out there offshore.
Nice.
Moving over to wahoo. Wahoo are always fun, to catch and great to eat. There's not huge numbers, but they're out there. My boat just came in about 30 minutes ago, and they had 4 wahoo from 20 to 40 pounds, which is nice. They're being caught around structure from like Ranzel's rocks along the ridges up about 400 deep plus. Bring some islanders with ballyhoo on the wire, and make sure that wire is in good shape. And the guy asked me the other day, he goes, man, we keep on getting bit off, and you're getting those bigger wahoo. They got long mouths, so you need to get that leader, that wire probably going 12 to 20 inches past your lure out there. And so if he inhales the whole lure, it doesn't knock you off on your mono there, because they will definitely crush it. Around this, if you get some higher structure up in the water column, like a wreck or a cutoff rig or something else that you got, then you can slow down some speed a little bit, go down some mirror lure divers and get them down deep. Purple is always a great color to go to while targeting wahoo, and also a big old black and orange. So I got a picture of just an average sized wahoo here, but some good action out there.
Tell us about the photo, Chad.
Yeah, so the photo there's
All right.
John Machin on the wahoo.
Yeah, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go ahead and read your shallow sport hotspots from the Lower Coast region inshore. Lower Coast flats from the land cut down to South Padre Island. The gas well flats are showing good numbers of redfish, up to 12 to 16 inches of water, looking for those reds. And then offshore, the conditions continue to improve, which gives you the option from the beachfront. You can chase bait balls, kingfish, tarpon to the deeper, and then go on out wahoo fishing.
All right, well, you know what? I think we've got a little bit of a break coming up, but first we're gonna check in with Dave Farrell, and at the same time, we're gonna come back and be at the STARTRON Middle Fresh region. So Dave, what do you got for us? What's coming up, man?
Well, we're talking about kingfish. Steve's going to show us how to catch the great big ones. He's made millions of dollars on the kingfish circuit. So I don't even know why he's here.
Yet, Dave.
Millions, I'm in the wrong business.
But he's going to show us how to do that.
Awesome, we'll be right
We're all
back.
going to be rich.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Bahio. Fresh eyes for a rich life. GARMIN. Plot your paradise. FiberTex. Leaders in fiberglass fabrication and repair. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. Penn. Let the battle begin. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
All right, we're here at Rigs and Techniques, and today we're talking about kingfish. Kingfish are one of the most sought after fish, and you get to do it a lot, Steve. It's Steve Grant from Diamond Fishing Products. He gets to fish in a lot of kingfish tournaments, so he knows a lot about catching great big ones. I fish for kingfish to catch a couple small ones for the smoker. That's what I like to do with them. They're not that, if you catch them and
Ain't worth any money that way.
yeah, exactly. But if you catch them and cook them the day that you catch them, they're pretty good to eat. If you smoke them, they're pretty good to eat. It's not a fish that you want to put in the freezer unless you're like a really strong tasting fish. And some guys do. Some guys love that. They grew up on fish sticks, and you freeze a kingfish, and they love it. But I like to smoke them and stuff like that.
Kingfish makes the best dip.
Exactly. And a kingfish, he's a mackerel fish. He's got tons of teeth, just like a wahoo. And so we have to use a lot of wire to keep them from breaking us off. And, they just have such incredible speed. They're made for speed. So a lot of the stuff that we use has a built-in stretch and stuff like that, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you want to try to alleviate that initial burst of speed, and then hopefully when he shakes his head and gets closer that we have a little bit of play. But when we're usually now in the summertime, the kingfish have moved up onto the beaches usually. If the water's clear, if they have a really clean water and there's a lot of bait, then the kingfish will be in there, and we can target them trolling the old traditional way with some nice downriggers and stuff like that, just trolling plugs and whatnot. But your specialty is catching great big kingfish.
Slow speeding.
Correct, with live baits.
So the nice thing about what you were talking about, doing planers and spoons and stuff, is you can cover a lot of ground.
Right.
Okay, but if you know where the fish are, we want to catch a bigger fish than you and the guy next to you and the guy over there.
Right. Maybe we'll start this way to locate the pod or something.
That's something that you could do.
And what happens when you find that mother lode of big fish that you're looking for?
You sit there and you fish until you catch the biggest one possible.
I got you. What's your favorite baits to use?
So my favorite couple baits, especially in the Texas area, is going to be a nice big hardtail between like 12 and 18 inches. And really, as far as big baits go, there's not a big enough bait. You know, as long as you can actually troll it on your equipment that you have, then you could pretty much catch, you know, that's how you catch the 50, 60 pounders, is trolling big bonitas or big hardtails. But if I had some nice hardtails or a ribbon fish, I'm happy. I won't go anywhere kingfishing without ribbon fish. Usually in a tournament day, I don't like to leave the dock with I want to have at least enough dead bait that I could pretty much troll the entire day in case I was unsuccessful catching live baits.
Right.
So, and I'll tell you, we'll talk about a couple little tricks since we mentioned ribbon fish.
Correct.
Okay. I have here one of my little tournament rigs, and on my ribbon fish, I like to add a skirt. Whatever skirt that you want to put on there, that's fine. I custom make my own. Okay. And a lot of people don't like using jig heads. I prefer to use a jig head because it helps right the ribbon to troll.
Because he's a very thin, long bait.
Very thin, and sometimes they want to spin, and they can be a little bit of a pain to troll.
That jig head makes him go straight.
That jig head kind of keeps his head down, okay? And the other thing we were talking about earlier is, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can put the hooks, and I didn't bring a ribbon fish with me. Some people go down the back or the spine of the ribbon because the back of the ribbon's a little bit darker too, so sometimes they think that the hooks kind of hide in there. I actually prefer to take them and I slide them down the side, okay? The reason being is I'll lay it in the water, and if it has any type of a slow spin to it, you can take the ribbon out of the water and put the hooks down the opposite side, and it'll act like a rudder.
Straighten them out.
It'll straighten them right out, okay? Because if you have a ribbon fish trolling right up and down, he's gonna catch a kingfish.
Now you showed me another cool trick before, real quick, about doing the loop-to-loops with your long rigs.
Well, I'll show you. First of all, let's talk about hardtails for just a quick second. All right. Now this is the long rig. Now with these hooks, okay, you can see how if I jiggle it just a little bit, they have a lot of dance to them.
Right.
Okay. So the way we do that is we tie the hooks together doing a loop to loop, and I can show you in 10 seconds if you want me to.
Go. You got 10 seconds.
All right. So you start from the front hook and go to the back, and then when you attach your trail hooks, you simply take your wire and you go loop to loop before you tie your haywire twist. And we'll see how quick I can tie a haywire here on television.
Well, the key is that instead of putting it through the hook, you're actually putting it through the very first loop that you attach that first hook with.
Exactly.
And then when you have it all loop to loop to loop, all your hooks are jiggly jangly.
So when you put it this way, the hook's allowed to dangle, because when we're tournament fishing, if I have 3 hooks on the rig, I want 3 hooks in the kingfish. I don't care where it is, his mouth, his head, his back, his tail, as long as we got it.
That's worth it all right there. Just that little tip right there.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
We gotta go, guys.
I know, we got to speed things up. Okay, the wait is finally over as Matt Loescher is ready to tell us what we need to be looking out for in the STARTRON Middle Fresh region. Matt, what do you need to tell us to get us hooked up this weekend?
All right, so I'm going to start with the crappie. They've been the most cooperative species lately, so I'm going to begin with them this week. Starting on the eastern edge of my region at Toledo Bend, the crappie have been hanging out in the deep offshore structure, about 20 to 30 foot deep. They're suspending in the trees in large schools. They are a little bit finicky right now, so you'll want to keep the boat noise to a minimum when you approach these schools of fish, and then just gently ease that live minnow down into the school and try to get them fired up. Panfish Assassin jigs on a really light 32nd ounce jig head are also good. And I have to stick with that pumpkin seed shad color that I've been mentioning a lot lately for my top pick again this week, because it's just been a very consistent fish catcher for me over the past several months, and it continues to produce for me daily. It's a great natural color. The crappie just can't turn it down. Now, over at Sam Rayburn, the crappie there continue to load up more and more on that deeper offshore stuff, because the water level continues to fall. You know, the lake level there is now right at pool level, so it's way down from what it's been all summer, the way it's been flooded. And they continue to generate some electricity down there at the dam, so I look for it to continue to come down even more. The crappie there are also sitting in about 20 to 30 foot of water around standing timber, And that Highway 147 bridge is an excellent place to load the boat as well. Just look for them suspended down around the pilings, about 10 to 20 foot down. Now moving on down to the southwest end of the Middle Fresh region at Lake Buchanan, the Hill Country Hammer, Jared Poole, he filled me in that the crappie there are in about 15 to 25 foot of water. They're in the trees, and then they're also under the docks, hanging out in the shade. So look for them under those docks there as well. And he left me with a photo for you guys on the crappie report this week of his two children, Avery and Jayton, with some nice crappie there, big smiles, real happy. I know he's a proud daddy right there. Good-looking kids, got some great fish, and they're doing a great job. You guys keep up the good work.
That's right.
Now moving over to the largemouth bass, that bite has really been a grind around here lately. I wish I had some better news for you, but what I will do is fill you in on what we're doing to beat this summer heat and get a few bites in tough conditions. Once again, starting in the eastern edge of the region, Toledo Bend, you'll want to focus your efforts in 10 to 20 foot of water. Look for the fish to be hanging out on isolated humps or on drop-offs in that depth range. Also keep an eye out for large concentrations of shad, because these large schools of fish are going to be in the areas that have the most food. Also keep your eyes peeled for fish schooling on the surface. Often they will give away their location and you can get right on them. For baits, look to topwater walking baits and crankbaits in the standard shad colors, and then worms and green pumpkin or Houdini. My favorite is that Bass Assassin Little Tapper in the Houdini. It's a great shad imitating bait, and it's awesome when they're schooling on those shad like that. And I got a photo here for you of myself with a nice 8-pounder I caught recently, doing exactly what I'm talking about, just chasing these schooling fish around, and you'll find a big one every now and then. So don't get too frustrated. They're out there. Moving down to Sam Rayburn, similar pattern. Look for the fish in that same 10 to 20 foot range out over the main lake ridges and also back in the creeks. Here, where the channel is out to about 20 foot deep in those creeks, the same types of baits work, but I like to add in a Carolina rig vapor shad. That way, you know, you got that fluke kind of, or shad bait kind of dangling behind that leader. It just always seems to be really good over there when those fish are schooling. And lastly, Jared Poole also gave me a report for the bass on Lake LBJ. He says that they're grinding for bites, but the old faithful Carolina rig is still producing fish there too. So he says look for the fish there on deep offshore structure like rock piles and 15 to 20 foot.
All right, bud, thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Middle Fresh region hotspots. Matt says the crappie are hanging in 15 to 30 feet around the timber, bridges, pylons, and docks. The largemouth bass are schooling over 10 to 20 feet of water, biting topwater plugs, crankbaits, and Carolina rigs. We're getting into the groove of things around here. Jamie, come on.
I love it. And you know what? This is your reminder that if you would like a chance to win this lovely 1952 Chevy 3100 Hot Rod right next to me, all you have to do is purchase raffle tickets at ccaflorida.org/hot rod. And that's only if, you know, you don't buy all the tickets, right?
No,
or I do.
I'm giving the
One
truck
of you.
away.
I'm just kidding. The winner will be chosen at the end of September, so good luck to you guys. And we have a lot more to cover in the Garmin Middle Coast and the Upper Fresh region coming up next, so don't move an inch. We'll be right back.
That's right.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. ALVEY Reels, a better way to fish. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Penn, let the battle begin.
Now we want to welcome Jason Austin from Heroes on the Water. And first off, I want to welcome you to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Secondly, you know, why don't we tell everybody what Heroes on the Water is?
First of all, thanks for having me, Rick. Heroes on the Water is a veteran nonprofit that takes veterans, first responders, and their family members out kayak fishing as a form of therapy, if you will.
So where do we do this, Jason?
Actually, we have 56 chapters, all volunteer-led across 26 states right now, all around the country.
All right, so now what do we do at the events? What is the main goal of Heroes on the Water?
I mean, it's kayak fishing, it's healing, it's camaraderie. You know, we're
So why have you guys found out that the kayak fishing is just so healing for the veterans or the first responders?
Everybody. I mean, if you've ever been fishing, and obviously you have if you're watching the show, you know how therapeutic it is. And for veterans and the first responders and their families, the healing process, you know, getting back out into nature, just there's something about it that, you know, there's no pill for it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about that. When you guys have these events, do you guys supply all of the equipment?
Yes, absolutely. You know, the participants just have to show up.
All right, so they do their first event, they're exposed to the organization. Do they typically like to come back? Can they come back?
Absolutely. It's definitely not a one and done organization. We encourage them to come back as often as they want and be a part of that chapter.
So, how you got exposed, you were in Iraq, you had an accident, you spend 900 days in the hospital, and you meet this guy who was the founder of Heroes on the Water. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Jim Dolan, the guy, I mean, what a genius.
Yeah.
Finding an organization, stuffing a bunch of veterans in little plastic boats and kind of allowing us to heal. You know, my first experience with Jim was getting permission to use the logo to wrap my truck because I just wanted to tell the world about the organization and actually how it saved my life. And you know, right after that, we became really close friends, and he realized that what he was doing was, you know, a lot bigger than what he thought.
Certainly life changing. So he passed. Now we have a tournament that's in his honor. That's an online tournament. So you can be anywhere in the country.
Anywhere in the country.
And participate. Tell us a little about that.
Freshwater. All the details are actually on our website. It's heroesonthewater.org. It's the second annual memorial online tournament. And, you know, I mean, we just really encourage everybody watching to go check it out, check us out. Look on the website, look at some of the success stories, and, you know.
Well, being next to you is a success. We appreciate your service.
Yeah,
and Jamie, we do need to go to another region, so where do we head next?
That's right. And as you know, the early bird gets the worm, or trout and redfish. Captain Bink Grimes is here to tell us what's happening in the GARMIN Middle Coast. Let's have it, Bink.
Hey, summer's finally arrived here just in time for NFL training camps and college and high school practices. We kind of been doing the same thing as football camps. We've been getting out early and then getting out late, trying to beat the heat. The areas around Pascaval have been good with tide running trout entering, exiting the current. Soft plastics like mirror lure provokers, bass assassins have worked well. Glow chartreuse, purple little demons, little johns as well. Guy Ned Smith said he's been heading out on the south end of San Antonio Bay, pulling trout on sand and grass, on top waters and rose-colored plastics. Those are wading, they're throwing soft dines, and they've done well posted up on the edges of reefs with live shrimp. And Palacios, guide Ray Sexton, said he's had to work harder for trout on windy days while wading the shoreline. But he said that early bite has been best, especially when we're coming up on this full moon. The early and the late bite has been really good. Nearby Coon Island's been good with higher tides on live shrimp. Half Moon Reef has been on fire for trout on live shrimp. And then soft plastics on the edge of rocks have been good for pretty good catches of trout. East Matagorda Bay's been giving up trout. It's a hit or miss deal. One day they bite, one day they don't. Their mid-belly reefs are holding trout all time of the year. We've had fish up to 6 pounds here this week, mainly on bass assassins and live shrimp under a popping cork. And we're still releasing those fish, and we're trying to release, you know, all the fish back, trying to protect them from this freeze. And we ask people that they just, you know, release more than they take. And then that Rockport bug bite's been good on mirror lures as well. Live baiters, they've thrown piggy perch and live shrimp along the sand and grass, and then along the deep channels later in the day. We'll go to redfish. August is normally a tough month to find redfish consistently in the shallows. That's when low tides and this boiling water persist. A lot more water is being pumped in the bay this week, which has helped our chances at redfish. We've got you know, some low pressure out in the Gulf, and our tides are coming up, and those redfish are heading to the back lakes. Waders along the east end of East Matagorda Bay, they found fish around Brown Cedar Flats, Bird Island, and Catch-All. Then those bruiser redfish have been around the log
while drifting high tides. And then the back lakes like Crab Lake and Oyster Lake and Lake Austin have been good as well. Look for lots more reds on the surf side, Matagorda and the Port O'Connor jetty. We'll go offshore. The federal red snapper season ended August 5th, but snapper fishing in Texas, it remains open all year because we can get them inside of 9 miles. And this week we've had seas of 1 to 2 foot, which is perfect for wrecks and rocks. Chunks of squid, sardines, or Russell lures worked in state waters have been best for fish pushing 20 pounds. And there's a lot of fish in that 25 to 40 foot range, and they've been a little smaller at 10 to 12 pounds, about 8 to 9 miles out. Kingfish continue to be good behind shrimp boats. Wahoo and Dorado are along the weed lines in about 200 foot of water. So it's been a good week. It's been hot, but we've had tranquil seas, and it's been a good week on the Garmin Middle Coast region.
Big, great report, man. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the mirror lure hotspots from the Middle Coast region. Bink suggests, guys, that the trout are good around Pascavallo while waiting with bass assassins. And then if you want to go redfish are good along the north shoreline of the West Matagorda Bay on live shrimp.
All right, that's a pretty good report, man.
Yeah, man.
Ready to
Spot
go. Well, the time has come for us to deliver your report in the Upper Fresh region, and Johnny Geis is ready to roll with all the info on Lake Tawakoni and Lake Fork. Lay it on us, Johnny.
Okay, I'll do that. Let's start off with crappie here on Lake Fork today. The normal August kind of getting here after a rather mild start. Afternoons, man, they're getting hot right now, but so is that crappie bite. Most consistent bite right now on Fork is the crappie. Mornings, real early in the mornings, it's kind of starting off slow, but by about 9 o'clock, the crappie are loading up on the brush piles and the lay down timber. Recent half-day trips have been producing near limits by noon, with the most action coming around the late morning into the midday. As the sun rises, more and more crappie are moving over to the cover. Big schools get tight and ready to bite. So we're using straight minnow rigs at this time on 20-pound braid with 8-ounce sinker and a gold #1 Eagle Claw hook. This simple setup is working great in this 17 to 23 foot depths, which are holding the most crappie at this time. The best thing about using the straight braid is that you can easily get unsnagged when you get hung up in the brush. I used to use the 4 to 6 pound mono, but I found that the braid caught just as many fish and I didn't have to re-rig as often for a customer. When you get hung up using a braid, a quick snap of the rod will usually free that light wire hook from the brush instead of breaking off. Then you just bend the hook back in shape with the pliers and you're right back into the fishing. Finding the new crappie spots is easy now with my Garmin Live Scope. I first highlight the preferred depth range on my mapping, and then I start slowly searching into the wind for the schools of the crappie. I set that forward range on the Garmin to about 50 foot and start scanning with the transducer until I see that next laydown or brush that's holding a lot of fish. Slowly approach the school from the downwind angle and change my forward setting to about 20 foot. We're ready to fish. This will allow that spot lock feature on your trolling motor to hold you right in place within reach of the crappie. I then put the waypoint on the Garmin there to mark that spot for future trips as well. This gives great detail and separation of crappie, and you can quickly see your minnow rig fall into the crappie flow. Also set that depth setting on a couple of feet below the depth you're fishing. This will give you the best picture and detail on your electronics. It's easy to see your weight and minnow falling to the crappie, and you can usually pick off the largest fish in the brush pile. Our customers are having so much fun watching this live scope screen and pulling in a big crappie. Everybody's getting them one. So here's a couple of pictures of some happy clients, customers this week, and as you can tell, man, they're holding up some big crappie, and the cleaning table, well, we're going to be there a while, but they're biting. Okay, let's go over here on Tawakoni, man. I just got to sound like a broken record, but the stripers on Tawakoni, they're on fire as usual. Guide buddy Matt Cartwright, man, they continue to produce limits of big stripers and hybrids for his clients, as well as limits of big sand bass. Each day he starts out using live gizzard shad to catch the big stripes, and they usually catch their 5-fish limit fairly quickly. They're fishing the live bait rigs on the Carolina rig, and then they catch and release even more big fish until the school stops feeding and moves off the structure. Usually by this time, the customer's about worn out from reeling in these hard fighting stripers. Matt starts looking at that time for the big school of the white bass for the customers to fill out limits of those, which is 25 a person. Sometimes they're coming up schooling. The white bass are give away their location pretty easy and provide some exciting fishing with fish busting all around the boat. They're using plastic swim baits to catch the surfacing sand bass. Once the school goes down, they switch over to that heavy slab, hop and jig it through the fish. By mid to late morning, Matt usually has his cooler filled to the brim with fish. They're ready to head back to the dock to clean the customer's catch. Here are a couple of pictures of this week's action on Tawakoni, and as usual, Matt's cleaning table is slapped full of fish. Customers are happy with them holding up some pretty big stripers and hybrids, as you can see in those pictures. As you can see, that fishing's pretty hot here in North Texas, so you got to get out early to beat the heat. Get into some great action on Fort Tawakoni right now. I'll be headed out before daylight in the morning trying to get on the bass, so they're starting to bite again. This weather's getting right finally. Don't forget that your Texas fishing license will expire this month. It's always a great idea to get ahead of start and get them before that September 1st due date and avoid the rush. Fishing's good in North Texas. Let's get out and go catch some this weekend.
A lot of great tips and reminders. Johnny, thank you so much for all the extra effort this week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Upper Fresh region. He says Lake Fork, the big crappie are still biting good. Minnow rigs in 17 to 23 feet of water are working best. Mid to late mornings are the best times. Then Lake Tawakoni, the stripers and the sand bass are on fire. Live bait is catching the big stripers and the hybrids. The jigs and the swim baits are working best for those sandies.
Man, North Texas sounds on fire right
It
now,
is
right?
on fire.
Well, stick around because we have your Fish Bites Upper Coast report up next. And Dave, of course, has all the coolest gadgets over at the workbench. And you're going to share them with us, right?
Oh, I'm going to share
all of
them.
it.
Yeah, this is a really cool little gadget from Ray Rocher. Look at this thing.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
I like it.
Our tackle in the house.
All right, guys, come on back.
Nice.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Mirrorlure. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. R&R Tackle. From our tackle box to yours. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And STARTRON. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
Today's Power Pole tip is about the warranty and the service. Now, Power Pole is owned and operated, family owned and operated, and guys, I want to tell you, with that in mind, that's one of the reasons why they have the best customer service and warranty program of any company in the industry. They want to make sure that your Power Pole experience every single day is flawless. The thing that I like is that you can troubleshoot your problems through the Sea Monster app. But if you're not able to figure out the problem yourself, they want you to call. So we have a 1-800 number that you can call, and they'll answer that phone call and try to troubleshoot the problem while you're out on the water. If you're not able to, then they'll recommend you to go to a local dealer. They will get in contact with the dealer to make sure that you have no problems whatsoever. The reason why Power Pole is such a great product is certainly they stand behind their product. They want you to have a great experience, and that's one of the single most important parts of their business model. If you have any questions about Power Pole, you can go to powerpole.com, and that's today's Power Pole tip of the week. So Dave, we're here at the new products at the bench.
Yes, sir.
And we got a bunch of them. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, we got the, first off there, we got the Taco Marine kite fishing rod cluster. It's a 3-rod cluster that goes into 1 rod holder. And, you know, it's great for kite fishing or even, you know, bottom fishing when you're sitting still. You can do live baits out of 1 on each side. What it does is just makes it easier to fish 3 rods out of 1 hole, you know. So you can keep everything nice and tidy and together. And it's got a 15-inch bent shaft. It fits in all regular, that gives a little clearance off the back, and it fits all standard gunnels. It's got a gimbal design on the bottom, so it locks in securely once you put it in there. And it's got little PVC inserts in the top with the antifungal stuff, because you know, if you ever had these before, if they don't have that in there, they can grow some nasty stuff in there if you don't keep them rinsed out. And just go to Taco Marine and get you one of those if you want to, you know, fish.
I love the fact that it has the bend so that the tips are laying out.
Yeah, and it gets a little clearance from the gunnel as well.
Absolutely.
And it comes with that little cool bag to keep it in. So.
I like it.
Next, you got the Spin Fisher 6. This is the BEALLS. This is the BLS model, which is great for the surf. This is a totally sealed reel. You don't have to worry about getting any salt water inside your gears or up underneath your drags in that spool. It's got the IPX5 rating for being sealed. It's got HT100 drag system, just like the ones on the big boys use for the Penn Internationals. Exactly, and it's really sealed up, so there ain't no water going to get in there. That's BEALLS, obviously, which is great for surf fishing. Makes really long casts. 5-to-1 sealed stainless steel ball bearing. It's got a full metal body.
Right.
You know, the whole body's metal. It's got a super line spool, and it's also got line capacity rings on the spool, so that you can fill it to a certain ring, and you know how much you got. It holds 390 yards of 15-pound braid and 320 yards of 10-pound mono. So you can put a lot of line on that little thing. 12.3 ounce weight too.
Pretty work.
Yeah, just go to Penn and get you one of those. These are really cool. These are brand new from Ray Roaster. I mean, brand new. This is the R&R line through swim bait. It's a 5-inch bait, weighs 1.25 ounces. They've been playing with this thing forever. I just talked to Ray, and he told me about how they mold those heads and how they had to pick that weight perfectly so it sinks horizontal and that tail just goes crazy. It's got a removable little tail on it. The thing that makes it special, though, is the line through. And this allows you to pick whatever leader you want, you know. You can use a wire leader if you want. You can use 20, 30, 40-pound leader, any leader that'll fit through that hole and not make a big ball on your hook there. It'll fit right in that little hole. And you can fish that thing on the bottom. You can fish it just swimming through the water column. Everything eats it. Tarpon, snook, redfish, kingfish, trout, everything that'll eat a little fish will eat that. It's got a really hard plastic head and the removable tails. They sell the tails extra as well online at R&R. And they screw right off. There's a big screw mechanism inside there. It's that you can just screw those tails on and off, change colors, or if one gets nailed, you can change it.
Right.
You know? And the soft tail really works like crazy when it's falling and when you move the rod up and down. It comes with a big 6/0 double strength hook that fits that whole thing. You know, any short shank live bait hook will fit in there, and you can probably put a little longer shank in there if you want to.
What I like is that you can retie your leader without having to cut and start over. There's no cable to wind back in, all of that mess.
Yep, exactly.
Beautiful.
And what the purpose of it is it keeps that heavy head away. If the fish shakes his head underwater, or if he takes off, the lure comes away from the fish's mouth and he can't use it as leverage against you.
Exactly.
So get that R&R
Good
line
job,
through
Ray.
swim bait.
Okay.
R&R.com. All right, rnrtackle.com. Anyway, then we got AFTCO. These are some really nice Aero Mesh performance. I got shirt and the buffs here. This Aero Mesh fabric is really, really light fabric. It comes in 6 colors, from small to XXX, the shirt does. Super breathable fabric. Like I said, it's pretty much a pure mesh shirt, but it still has UPF 40. It's got the quick dry. It's got the moisture wicking. It's got the 3M stain resistance. I wore a white one of these the other day, grouper fishing, and you know how bottom fishing is. You get messy with squid and blood and everything. Put that sucker in the washer and it came back pure white, which is, I love white stuff because I have faith in physics, and I like it because white stuff radiates the sun, doesn't stick to you. If you got colors on, you absorb it.
AFTCO.com.
Yep, AFTCO.
Jamie, take us to the last region before Dave runs us out of time.
No worries, guys. No worries. You know what? Last but not least, definitely not least, we're wrapping up with Captain Carl in the FISHBITES Upper Coast region. Take it away, Carl.
Hello, Jamie and Rick. Yeah, let's go right up to Sabine Lake. The water temp up there is about 87 degrees.
The guides have been having great luck on reds. There's a bunch of bait fish all around the shorelines and the reefs. So topwater is reigning king right now up there. It's a blast. Live baits on a popping cork is a must. You can't beat shrimp or finger mullet. As far as artificials go, 4-inch bass assassin shrimp in white has been really hot this week, rigged on a 1/4 ounce jig head. You could also try Mirror Mirodine in green shad or broken glass. Those colors have really been putting the fish on the table. And we have a young lady here with a redfish in our pick today. Now, moving over to trout, guys, it's amazing how the trout have rebounded this summer after that hard freeze we had here in the Upper Coast. You know, catch and release for a lot of our anglers has really been a positive for our fishery here. People they're catching on to the program, and people are just keeping what they eat, which is great. It's what we, always should do anyways. But anyways, fishing for these guys, natural baits are going to be your best bet still. Shrimp on a popping cork has been hot all year. You just can't beat it. Once again, Bass Assassin or FISHBITES Fight Club are about as close to live as you'll get for the artificial baits on a 1/4 or an 1/8 ounce jig head, just depending on how far you want to throw it. And both these baits are really pretty much hand in hand. So anyways, we were just talking about catch and release, and we have a picture of Mr. Garza today with a beautiful little trout. Of course, he released. That's just to show how they're coming back. We have a lot of little guys out there coming back.
That's awesome. Good job. All right, let's go offshore, bub, where you make your living.
Okay, the kingfish bite has been hit or miss this summer. It's weird. I'll go out one day and kill it, and the next day it's like I can't find them. So the huge influx of fresh water this summer has seemed to change the salinity, and it runs in and out day-to-day, back and forth in the tide. So all I'm saying is stay positive, guys. If you miss them one day, you'll get them the next day. It's been on and off like that. And but the rain, like I said, has seemed to slow it. Live bait is still a grind some days to get, but it's worth your time to catch it. Take your time, get your good live bait. It's going to make all the difference in the world. The green water is where you're going to want to find your kingfish. They call it king green for a reason. Slow troll these live baits, or you can mix in some deep divers around underwater structures and hang on. When the fish are there, it's going to be hot and heavy. And definitely check your equipment, because these big fish make big, strong runs. Make sure your wire leader's good. You're using quality hooks. We use an Eagle Claw 4 times strong treble hook on a double rig. We do that because we tournament fish a lot. Now, if you don't tournament fish, I would go with the R&R tackle. They got a single J hook on a pre-rigged titanium leader. It is so much easier to de-hook, and it's not as dangerous. So go with them. It's an awesome, it's the option you should use. We got a picture of Tosh here with a kingfish we caught last week. So let's talk about my favorite fish, mahi-mahi. The rips and weed lines are bringing in some nice fish this past week. Trolling some smaller feather jigs and mahi magnets is where the fun will really start. Now, when you find a school of these fish, sometimes I'll stop trolling, get up on this school, and I'll just start trumming and drift in the weed line. This is where you can pull out the smaller, lighter weight gear. And to me, this is where you have a fun, Rick. Chum them up. You throw in little spoons from the boat. You can get everybody out there. We just got some beautiful 8-foot Fenwick rods this year, and we rigged them with some small pen spinners with some 20-pound Diamond Mamoy, and that is what is fun, guys. We have a blast catching these Dorado, and the rod works so well. I can throw a mile. I can throw a 2-ounce spoon further than I want to reel it back, guys. Quick tip, too. Don't forget that old tried and true tactic we've talked about. If you've got in them good, keep one on the line hook. The others will school around it, and you can really make some easy work of it. And we have a picture here of our buddy Mario with a nice little chicken dolphin.
All right, thank you so much, bud. Great report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots from the Upper Coast region. He says redfish toss live bait on a popping cork or a 4-inch Bass Assassin sea shad, white shrimp on a 1/4 ounce jig head along the rock jetties, and then offshore, the Dorados, just like in his report, on the weed lines while trolling a pink and black mahi magnet by R&R tackle.
Those little dolphins are fun.
Oh,
yeah.
I love catching those.
Hey, Way to
That was
dust it
good.
off,
First one,
man.
right?
Good
I know.
job.
You
I
did
love
good.
it. Thank you very much. You know what? I had a great time with you guys. You made it a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff, right? Got some
Right.
great reports out there.
That's absolutely.
Ready for fishing this weekend, right?
And you're going to be here next week, right?
I will be here for one more week. And hopefully we'll have news on Brie. We don't know, right?
All right.
She's still cooking.
Check
That's
us
right.
out, dude.
Well, thanks so
See
much,
you next week,
guys. We'll
guys.
see you soon. Bye, guys.